Welcome back, guys, to Failtakeda's Guide to Pally Tanking. In this video, guys, we're going to look at the single target paladin rotation for tanking raid bosses. We will also go over the multi-target paladin rotation for tanking AoE mobs such as Trash Pulse. For this video, guys, I am using Seal of Insight. I just wanted to point this out. You should never use Seal of Insight as a tank. You should always use Seal of Truth. The reason why I'm using Seal of Insight is because I cannot dodge or block the Raider's Training Dummy. This is going to prevent me from rejuvenating 3% of my mana every time. So with this rotation, I would run out of mana if I didn't use Seal of Insight. It will also mean that I will miss a lot more because I don't have the 10 to expertise as provided by the Seal of Truth glyph. Don't forget, guys, your main objective is to keep your Holy Shield rolling. It lasts for 20 seconds, and as of 4.1, Inquisition actually pops your Holy Shield now. It also comes off of your Shield of the Righteous. So remember, even if you only have 1 or maybe 2 Holy Power, make sure you pop either Inquisition, depending on whether you're AoE tanking, or Shield of the Righteous if you're single targeting, to make sure that you keep that Holy Shield up and reduce the damage that you're actually taking. So I'm going to go over the priority list here. Our Hammer of the Wrath is actually at the top of our priority list. We have Shield of the Righteous, Crusader Strike, Judgment, Avenger Shield, Holy Wrath, and Consecration last. One thing I want to note is Hammer of Wrath actually takes priority. So as soon as the mob is actually below 20% health, you want to go ahead and use Hammer of the Wrath every time it's off of the cooldown. One other thing I wanted to note before we go into the rotation here is that our interrupts are not on the global cooldown. So what does that mean? It means if we're really comfortable with our rotation, we can actually work the interrupt in between our global cooldowns. What I want to show you here is if we were to do something like Crusader Strike, Rebuke, then Judgment, we can actually get the Judgment right before the global cooldown actually finishes. And as you see there, I was on Judgment before the actual global cooldown was done. I had already interrupted. So if you get really efficient with this, you really want to try and work Rebuke into your rotation in between the global cooldown. Using Rebuke in between your spells while your spells are on global cooldown is going to prevent your threat gen or your DPS from suffering, while being able to still interrupt spells. First thing I like to do when tanking a single target mob is I like to pop my Divine Plea macro, which is mentioned earlier in the other videos. This gives me 3 holy power to run right in and use my Shield of the Righteous. This is really going to give me my initial threat that's so important for paladin tanking when your DPS wants to do as much damage as they can. This is going to allow you to increase the damage they can do at the beginning instead of having them wait till you generate threat. When doing a single target pull, I like to start with Exorcism. The reason why I start with Exorcism is because it prevents my Judgment and my Avenger Shield from being on cooldown when I do get into my rotation. It also gives me a few seconds to do a countdown in raids. I want to talk about the Avenger Shield proc. You might be tempted to actually hit the Avenger Shield proc as soon as it comes up. However, you actually want to wait and try and hit it in between Crusader Strikes. Using your Avenger Shield in between Crusader Strikes is going to allow you to get Holy Power to get to your Shield of Righteous as quick as possible. However, you don't want to lose your Avenger Shield proc, so if you think you're not going to make it until a Crusader Strike rotation, go ahead and click it. You're still going to save a global cooldown that way. Alright guys, so I'm going to go ahead and attack this Raider's Training Dummy as if it was a raid boss. I'm going to go ahead and start with my Divine Plea. Cast Exorcism. I'm going to run in, Shield of the Righteous, Crusader Strike, Judgment, Crusader Strike, Avenger's Shield, Crusader Strike, Sacred Duty's up. I'm going to go ahead and pop Shield of the Righteous. I missed it. Alright, Shield of the Righteous, Crusader Strike, Judgment, Crusader Strike, Holy Wrath, Crusader Strike, Avenger Shield, Crusader Strike, Avenger Shield proc, Shield of the Righteous, Crusader Strike, Judgment, Crusader Strike, Avenger Shield proc, worked it into between the Crusader Strike there, Avenger Shield, Crusader Strike, Judgment, Crusader Strike, Holy Wrath, Crusader Strike, Consecration, Crusader Strike, Shield of the Righteous, Crusader Strike, Judgment, Crusader Strike, Avenger Shield, Crusader Strike, Holy Wrath, Crusader Strike, Judgment, Crusader Strike, Shield of the Righteous. Alright guys, now that you've seen the single target rotation, we're going to move on to the multi-target rotation. It's very similar to the single target rotation, except that we're going to replace Shield of the Righteous with Inquisition. We're also going to replace Crusader Strike with Hammer of the Righteous. One other thing you might want to note is that we are going to switch from Judgment and Avenger Shield from the initial pull. We're actually going to work in Holy Wrath and Consecration for our first rotations. Then we're going to actually follow the single rotation. Alright, so our buddies, the Alliance Training Dummies, have volunteered to be our test subjects for this AoE tanking rotation. I just want to mention you can start one of two ways. One is you can use Divine Plea and then pop Inquisition as you run in, and then Hammer of the Righteous. This will allow you to get your threat gen up enough that you won't have to worry about it. But most of the time, if you are using Divine Plea, it's probably going to be down. Or you might be saving it for a boss, so you're going to want to start with Avenger Shield. Just a little quick note, Fail Tankedin's Avenger Shield is glyphed for single target, so you will not see it jump when I use it here. Alright guys, so the rotation I like to do if I don't have Divine Plea up, so go ahead and throw my Avenger Shield, I then Hammer of the Righteous, I get Consecration up after a Hammer of the Righteous. The reason why I like to throw Consecration down immediately is because it keeps rolling as I do the rest of my rotation, throwing out damage and generating threat on all the mobs. I then come back and do Hammer of the Righteous and then Inquisition immediately. This is going to give me 8 seconds of Inquisition, which sometimes give me enough time to actually get a whole nother 3 Holy Power to pop the full rotation of Inquisition to get that in there. The real purpose is initial threat is more important for your AoE tanking than it is maintaining that threat afterwards. So maintaining it's a little easier than getting the initial threat, especially if you have DPS that's not focusing on your initial target. So basically real quick, I go Avenger Shield, Hammer of the Righteous, Consecration, Hammer of the Righteous, Inquisition. I then, after Inquisition, go back to Hammer of the Righteous, Holy Wrath, Hammer of the Righteous, and then Judgment. You actually want to take Judgment right after that, even if your Avenger Shield is up, because your Consecration and your Holy Wrath are very mana heavy. You might be deprived if your dodge or your block are very low. You're not getting that 3% mana back as quickly as you need. So Judgment, and then continue the rotation as normal. Get your Judgment, your Avenger Shield, your Wrath, and then your Consecration in that order, just like you would do for the single target. But you're also doing your Hammer of the Righteous and your Inquisition as opposed to your Shield of the Righteous and your Crusader Strike. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now and kind of show you instead of just keep talking here, so you can see what I'm talking about. Alright guys, so first thing we're going to want to do is Avenger Shield. Run in Hammer of the Righteous. Get Consecrate. We're going to take Hammer of the Righteous. I'm actually going to take the Avenger Shield. Inquisition. Hammer of the Righteous. Get our Holy Wrath. Hammer of the Righteous. Get a Judgment. Get our mana back. Now once we reach this point, it really is just our basic single target rotation again. Except that we're replacing Hammer of the Righteous for Crusader Strike. And we're also replacing our Shield of the Righteous with our Inquisition to make sure we keep our Inquisition up. So as you can see here, you'll be pulling massive damage. This will also help you get that initial threat when you're pulling trash upon trash upon trash, and you're not having time for your Divine Plea to pop up. And there you have it guys, the AoE Pally tanking rotation. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them on YouTube or the Clan Bash 'em Dead website. Don't forget to check out the other parts of my videos if you have any other questions. And once again guys, this is Fail Tankedin. I hope it was helpful, and I hope to see you guys in some of the other tutorials.